as Los Angeles officials just announced new charges stemming from protests that turned violent, protests against ICE raids there. With us now, Dr. Phil McGraw. You know him as Dr. Phil. He's the host of Dr. Phil Primetime on Merit TV, and he was in the Los Angeles ICE headquarters on Friday when those raids kicked off, and he also interviewed Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, both Thursday and Saturday in Los Angeles, so he has a unique view into all this. Dr. Phil, thanks so much for joining us. Your crews captured some footage from raids over the weekend. You were not embedded with agents, though, we should note. What did you learn about these raids as you were covering them behind the scenes?
Well, Jake, thanks for asking, and thanks for the coverage you guys are doing. Listen, I found out some things that I think were knowable, and I think some people are reporting and some are not. First off, this was a multi-agency operation. This wasn't just an ICE operation. The particular operation, I think, that has drawn all the attention, did involve different agencies. The ICE was there, U.S. Marshals was there, FBI, the IRS was actually involved in this, ATF was there. Not all of the agencies were involved in every operation that went on, but there were multiple agencies involved. And this was pursuant to a search warrant. And you know that in order to get a search warrant, you have to present a lot of evidence to a federal judge who has to find probable cause to issue a search warrant. And that was done for a particular company that was alleged or suspected to be involved in criminal behavior. They were alleged to have undervalued their imports like $80 million, underpaid tariffs $17 million, which involved the IRS. So when the raid took place, there were a lot of records seized, and they went in and audited the workforce. And I think 40 people were arrested at two different sites for the company at that point because they were illegal. And there were criminals included in that group. So it wasn't just an ICE raid. There were other agencies involved, and nobody seems to talk about that very much, although that information is available. And there were other sites that they went to as well, but I was apprised of that going in because we have looked at this. And, people say, why are you focused on this? Well, listen, my focus from the beginning has been to talk about things that matter to people who care. And that has shifted from pure psychological to the more psychosocial issues. People have become much more aware of what's going on. And my viewers tell me what they want to hear about. And this immigration has become a really big issue with people. It's one of the top two issues that Americans tell us they're concerned about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was one of the reasons why President Trump was elected, because of the perception and reality in many cases of an open border.
Yeah, and the thing that really puzzles me in looking at this is I'm wondering, they're attacking agents on the street, FBI agents, police, ICE agents. They didn't pass these laws. These laws were passed, as you know, in the legislature,
right,
by the officials that these people elected. Why are they not on Capitol Hill protesting there? If they want to change the law, change the law. But laws are not suggestions, and they're not optional. They have to, you're either going to enforce them or you're not.
Yeah. Let me ask you, obviously there are a lot of violent criminals being picked up in these raids. There are some stories out there, you see them in the press, about ICE arresting undocumented migrants who otherwise have clean records, moms and dads, college kids, et cetera. California Republican Congressman David Valadao tweeted yesterday, quote, "I remain concerned about ongoing ICE operations throughout California and will continue my conversations with the administration, urging them to prioritize the removal of known criminals over the hardworking people who have lived peacefully in the valley for years," unquote. And we had a different Republican congressman on the show yesterday, Gonzalez of Texas, who said something similar: focus on the violent criminals. That's what everybody wants. What are your thoughts on that, having seen a number of these ICE raids from the inside?
Well, I've talked to President Trump about this and Tom Homan extensively, and they have three priorities. Number one was to close the border, and I think they have effectively done that. Number two was the worst first, to take the violent criminals, the gang members, MS-13, Tren de Agua, to get these violent criminals off the streets. And I don't think anybody wants those criminals on the street. And listen, when they go into, I've seen that they target these individuals. They're not going and doing just random sweeps, but they target these individuals. Now, when they go in to find these people in an apartment building or some area where there are a lot of others around, they're going to check who's around. If they go into an apartment, there's 8 people in there, and the target is in there, the dangerous criminal with the violent history. They're going to check who they're with, and if those people are illegal, they're not going to turn a blind eye to that. They're going to take those people into custody as well. And the third prong that they're focused on is finding the missing children. There are over 300,000 estimated 300,000 children that have just fallen through the cracks and gone missing once they cross the border. And some of them have found their way to families, but others have been pushed into prostitution and forced labor, and they need to be rescued. And when they're rescued, they need help. They need services, medical, psychological, sociological, to help them recover from the trauma and then reunited with their families. Those are their 3 top priorities.
So on Saturday, you interviewed Tom Homan, and you were nice enough to let us use a clip. Let's play that clip now.
Do you put agents' lives in danger if you come in and inform the mayor of what you're getting ready to do?
Absolutely. You know, these surprise operations, it's about officer safety, it's about community safety. You know, especially, as you said, in sanctuary cities, someone's going to be laying in wait, and terrible things will happen. It's a matter of time before one of our law enforcement officers take a life, or these radicals kill an officer.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says that not having a heads up makes it difficult to plan for law enforcement, for LAPD, to plan for protests that pop up in response to the raids. I'm not sure if you've had a chance yet to, and then this is obviously an ongoing story, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to talk to Mayor Bass or Governor Newsom to get their sense of the overall safety implications as these protests continue.
Well, one thing I am bothered about is, listen, I've known Karen Bass for a long time, and I think she is a very nice person. I know her well, and I think her heart's in the right place on most things, most of the time. I'm not comfortable with the things I've heard her say since this took place. I spent an hour with Governor Newsom a week ago, Monday, I believe it was, talking with him. Both of them have made it clear that they don't support what's going on here. If you tell them ahead of time, what are they going to do? They talk about the network of people sending out information, alerting people that ICE is in the neighborhood, where to go, how to hide, how to do different things that make their operation more dangerous, alerting people that they're coming. How can you tell them what you're going to do if they're not going to be supportive of it? These are two elected officials that took an oath to support the Constitution and to enforce the laws, but yet they don't seem, initially at least, to be doing that. I think both of them seem to be coming around now, but they weren't doing that initially. And if they're not going to put their heart into this, how do you do it? Listen, Jake, nobody questions the humanity of most of the people that have come across the border. Most of the people, at least in my experience and what I've seen, are not criminals. They're not dangerous, vicious, violent criminals. They are moms and dads. The Hispanic population historically is very family oriented. They're very church oriented. They're very family oriented. Nobody questions the humanity of most of the people that have come across the border. That doesn't make them immune from the law. The law is not optional. It's not a suggestion. You either enforce it or you don't. And if you don't like the law, and if it's flawed, change it. Those protests need to be on Capitol Hill. You don't need to be vilifying the officers on the street, the ICE agents, and throwing rocks at their heads. Do you think anybody asked a single ICE agent, do you think this is a good law? 48% of the border agents are Hispanic. They don't get a vote about this stuff. If they don't like it, change it. And I think a lot of it probably needs to be changed. But while it's the law, it's distinctly non-optional.
Dr. Phil McGraw, thanks so much for talking with us today. Really appreciate it, sir.